On June 27th, the developers of Wrath, Aeon of Ruin, issued an apology in relation to missing the estimated release window of spring 2023. This will now be the third time this game has been delayed. Worst part is this apology doesn't even give another estimated release window, which you could argue is in their best interest at the moment. If you go to the community tab of Wrath, you will see near vitriol from fans fed up with how production has been going. Some are certainly trying to maintain some peace, while others are just there to be trolls, but the majority of comments are from upset fans, feeling as though they've been jerked around. And that includes me. This is what it's like to not only be a Wrath fan, but a 3D Realms fan in general. Broken promises, developers stepping away, missing source code, and above all, a lack of communication are some of the problems plaguing 3D Realms. But how did we get here? And what is it like to be a modern-day 3D Realms fan as of June 2023? Before I get Realms deep into this, let's take a dive into just who and what 3D Realms are today. Let's go back to the early 2010s. 3D Realms was experiencing an absolute litany of problems. Prey was delayed heavily, and Duke Nukem Forever was a complete show, followed by legal disputes with Gearbox. In desperation, 3D Realms laid off a whole hell of a lot of employees, and sold the rights to both Shadow Warrior and Rise of the Triad, virtually ending it as a development studio, and refocusing all efforts to only publishing. Because of this, an easy opportunity appeared for Danish investment group SDN Invest, who bought the company from Scott Miller in 2014. They quickly restructured, placed Mike Nielsen, chairman of SDN, as the new CEO, and relocated headquarters from Texas to Denmark. Scott Miller, through all of this, was not left out completely, and was still hired on as an advisor. But the 3D Realms curse just never could seem to lift. After the failed release of Bombshell and 3 other games I didn't bother to research, 3D Realms needed a hit.
This is a public service announcement. Return to your homes or face death.
In 2019, Ion Fury, developed by Voidpoint, released to mostly positive reception. A modern-day build engine game embracing its roots, while simultaneously separating itself from the big 3. I had a lot of fun playing it, and I still return to it from time to time. The company, though, did experience some controversy for some things that were in the game, as well as an absolutely ridiculous lawsuit involving the heavy metal band Iron Maiden, but I don't want to get into any of that. The point is, 3D Realms, at long last, published a successful game. This brought with it not only a new crowd of fans, but also brought the old ones back. Things were looking up for the company. Next was the even more successful Ghostrunner, developed by Slipgate Ironworks alongside One More Level in 2020. Though this wasn't published by 3D Realms, it was produced by them, which once again brought their name to an even larger audience. Ghostrunner garnered great success, and no doubt brought many fresh eyes to the company. So with Ion Fury and Ghostrunner under their belt, people wondered, what will be their next game? Well, about that. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of 3D Realms' biggest problem, I want to get one game out of the way. That being Cultic. Episode 1 released in 2022 and is being developed by Jasaz Games or Jason Smith. Cultic Episode 1, as of now, is the only other game properly released by 3D Realms. Granted, it isn't fully released. Cultic works in an episodic fashion, meaning 3D Realms can release each episode at a time when they're finished. And for $9.99, that's not a bad deal at all. And if they can keep to a dedicated schedule, we can expect to see this game become a 3D Realms staple. But this is where the releases stop and the delays begin. In the same year Aeon Fury was released, a game called Wrath, Aeon of Ruin was open to early access on Steam. Developed by KillPixel, another one-man developer, but provided some helping hands supplied by 3D Realms, it showed from the get-go a fantastically bleak setting with violent gameplay and gorgeous artwork, all done in the Quake-based engine Dark Places. And from what was provided in early access, the game displayed immense promise. Sure, it needed tweaks here and there, but with what was provided, it seemed as though development was well on its way to completion. Seemingly in a display of confidence, 3D Realms even posted pre-orders for the Founders Edition, a physical big box release full of goodies, limited only to 500 customers. In full transparency, I am one of those 500 customers. The game was set to be released in 2021. The hype was real. Gamers across YouTube all gave the early access version a go, and they just couldn't wait for the full release.
2021
could not come soon enough. Then, the first delay. Issues with the game engine halted progress. Well, no matter. 3D Realms brought on more people, particularly those from the Quake modding scene, and are working hard at getting it finished. A new date of 2022 was announced. The hype grew even larger, and then delayed again. Now communication was starting to get suspiciously worrisome. The original creator left the project, leaving 3D Realms to try and salvage the game. This is not looking good. How can you finish a game correctly without its primary visionary? But okay, maybe the game is near complete, and all they have to do is tie up the loose ends, maybe complete a level or two. It should still be okay. And during Realms Deep 2022, we saw a fresh new trailer with things we've never seen before, all leading up to Spring 2023. Okay guys, this is it. All we have to do is wait a little less than a year and we can finally play Wrath, Aeon of Ruin. More like Aeon of Delays. At this point, you have a good idea of the drama surrounding this game in 3D Realms. They missed the release window completely without any announcements of another delay. Their bi-weekly updates now make the game look like it's nowhere near complete, no mention of what is happening with the Founders Edition big box, and their apology while acknowledging the missed release date doesn't really say anything about what players should expect. As far as we know, this game has entered the dreaded state of development hell, with little sign that it will ever be finished. Wrath isn't the only game 3D Realms is having trouble with. Far from it. In 2020, the company announced that they were working on a remaster for Kingpin with Slipgate Ironworks, the people behind Ghostrunner developing it. Once announced, they gave a confident release of summer of that same year. Once again, the hype was real and players couldn't wait to get their hands on it. Then a post. The developers have decided to change the course of development. They were using a separate engine to replicate the original game and have decided they should instead go with something more faithful. Well, a tough order. They would have to reverse engineer the entire game, seeing as the source code is nowhere to be found. But they ensured that everything is going as planned, and a full release is just on the horizon. 2 months later, in a new post. This whole reverse engineering is proving to be tougher than expected, but the team, and I quote, have been hard at work on this for the majority of 2020 and are finally at a stage where they're almost done. End quote. Okay, good news. Though there is an underlying feeling that we're being jerked around again, but reverse engineering any game is no small feat. In January, they will enter the final stages of development and release the game sometime in 2021. Yeah, this year is going to pop up a lot in this video. So 2021 ends and nothing. 2022, nothing. And now in 2023, players have given all hope on this game ever being released and have marked it a dead game. Thankfully, 3D Realms never opened any early access for the game, so there's no harm there, but it really is upsetting to see a project like this just drift into nothingness. So we can only hope that there is still interest in this game internally and they do eventually release it. Next, we have Core Decay, announced in 2020, developed by Ivar Hill and Slipgate Ironworks. Now, there isn't a whole lot of information about what is happening with this game. It was announced as being in production, and that's about it. 3 years later, and we still have nothing much to work on. It is worth knowing, though, that 3D Realms isn't hyping this game up a whole lot yet, and while updates have been sparse, Ivar Hill did recently do an interview talking about the production of the game, which personally makes me feel more confident that this game is actually still happening. Hopefully we see some fresh gameplay and information sooner than later. Next up, we have the Sin Remaster. Oh boy. This was announced in 2020, developed by Night Dive Studios and Slipgate Ironworks. Much like Kingpin Reloaded, it was slated that production was well on its way and players could expect a release of 2021, which, if you haven't grasped the pattern here, was completely missed. This time, however, there has been no information from either the developers or 3D Realms. Complete radio silence. Even in the community tab of the game's Steam page, you won't see any developers posting. This is particularly strange, as Night Dive has an overall positive reputation with some fantastic releases under their belt. The only bit of speculation I can see possibly being true is that Night Dive has been solely focused on getting the System Shock remake out the door, but it's now been a month since its release, so will we finally see an update to that Sin remaster? Well, with the way things are looking for 3D Realms, probably not. Finally, we come to the next big headache for fans. The Hexen-inspired Graven, developed by Slipgate Ironworks. This game entered early access in 2021 and received a mixed response from players. It certainly played like a game early in production, but it did show great promise and fans were excited. Plus, the devs were releasing dedicated build updates to the game, which helped keep fans' expectations in check. The roadmap too was being followed rather closely, and after meeting all 3 game update goals, everything seemed primed for a full release in late 2022. But the 3D Realms curse just will not let this company go! In 2023, fans have sat around patiently for any kind of update on the game, and once again, radio silence seems to have befallen upon yet another of 3D Realms' games. Much like Wrath, players are growing frustrated, feeling like they've been jerked around and had their money taken from them. Personally, Graven is a fresher game compared to Wrath, and also had many huge problems throughout its build updates, and seemingly needs more work done to it. I'm willing to give Graven a little bit more time, but only if 3D Realms actually makes a formal post about where this game is in production. Wow, all these games in what seems to be development hell? What should 3D Realms do about this mess? Why, announce more games! First up, we have Combustion, developed by Retro Dungeon and Slipgate Ironworks. Not too much is known about this, all we have is the trailer and what is shown on the 3D Realms website. Go check it out yourself. Then we have Rip Out, developed by Pet Project Games, and oh boy, is 3D Realms really pushing this one. Gameplay trailers, screenshots, music, you name it, and all in a relatively short amount of time when you compare it to any of the other games we've talked about. It certainly looks fun, and I suppose this game has been much further along in development before its announcement. Next, we have Phantom Fury, developed by Slipgate Ironworks. It takes place after the events of Ion Fury and ditches the glorious build engine for something more Quake/Unreal Engine-y. Personally, I'm mixed on this decision, but if the gameplay can pull me in, then I'm all for it. The developers have been posting regular updates to the Steam community page, and it does look as though the game is making forward momentum. However, if you scroll down, you can see some fans are already tired of 3D Realms' business practice of announcing games only to eventually go radio silent on them. And at last, we have arrived at Tempest Rising, an RTS-style game developed by 2B Games and Slipgate Ironworks. God, that name comes up a lot, doesn't it? Well, again, not much is known about this game other than what the trailer and website show us. The Steam Community tab also doesn't tell us too much, except, once again, the game is in development. The game in particular has a certain fan base excited though, and those are the neglected RTS fans. The game does look to be promising, and we can only hope that 3D Realms and Slipgate actually manage to get this one out the door. Now, if you're thinking I neglected to mention the expected release dates of these games, well, that is because all of these games have been slated with a coming 2023 release window. And I can hear all of you sighing from here. Yes, apparently, these 4 recently announced games are going to come out this year. Despite the fact we are already halfway through 2023 and have yet to see anything definitive, despite the fact that 3D Realms already has 5 games that have missed their release windows multiple times and are almost certainly in development hell. How wild would it be if Phantom Fury actually released before Aeon Fury Aftershock, a DLC expansion for the base game that was announced well before fans even knew Phantom Fury was a thing? Not only will I be shocked if any of these games actually release this year, I'll be thoroughly upset that these games only recently announced make it out before Wrath, Aftershock, and Graven. By now, you may have noticed some commonalities throughout all of this. One is the year 2021. Now, every person on this planet was affected in some way by the COVID pandemic, and developers across the gaming landscape took it particularly hard. This fact is by no means a 3D Realms only issue, as just about every development studio across the world had to halt production and in many cases restructure. But 2021 saw something I theorize has played a role in why 3D Realms is in the mess it is today. During the pandemic, both 3D Realms and Slipgate Ironworks were acquired by the Embracer Group subsidiary Saber Interactive. And this is when Frederick Schreiber replaced Mike Nielsen as CEO of 3D Realms. And Frederick is also the CEO of Slipgate Ironworks. Now you see why that development studio pops up so much. Before the storm that was 2021, the only fully developed game that managed to get out the door was Ghostrunner. But now they have a hand in virtually every game being published by 3D Realms. It is worth noting though that outside of Graven and Kingpin Reloaded, they're only listed as co-developers, and Wrath and Core Decay began as one-man projects before getting picked up by 3D Realms. At this point, you can view Slipgate Ironworks as 3D Realms' in-house development team. So, Wrath misses its initial release of 2021, and has since been delayed many times. Kingpin misses its initial release date of 2021, and goes radio silent. Sin misses its initial release date of 2021 and goes radio silent. Graven enters early access in 2021 and has since missed its expected release window. Now, correlation doesn't always mean causation, but it is rather coincidental that all of these things seem to be happening at around the exact same time. It should also be worth noting that 3D Realms was also working on a Rise of the Triad remaster alongside the developers of Hatred. Well, that's interesting. But it was canceled in 2021 and seemingly handed back off to Apogee Entertainment, who actually owns the IP, and New Blood Interactive, who have Night Dive Studios developing it. Oh my god. Really seems like we'll never get that Sin remaster, huh? Also, fun fact, Apogee hired Scott Miller for publishing operations in 2021, which almost certainly means he has not been involved with 3D Realms since the Saber Interactive acquisition. what a rabbit hole this turned into. Initially, I was only going to make a video solely about the Wrath situation, but I quickly realized that the issues with the game run much deeper. Realms deep, I might even say. These issues are across the board with 3D Realms as a whole, with the majority of games they are involved with becoming cursed in some way. And personally, them announcing new games, pushing them hard on their social media, and giving them all a 2023 release window is both laughable and insulting. How can you release these games so soon when you can't even finish games you announced upwards of 5 years ago? I loved this company. Aeon Fury became one of my new favorite first-person shooters, and the early access for Wrath was just so cool. I was riding a high on my excitement for the company. And Graven, while not great in its early access state, was just so cool in its setting and ideas. I was hyped, man. I even purchased the Founders Edition big box for Wrath like I'd mentioned earlier. But now, it's 2023, and outside of Cultic Episode 1 releasing in 2022, we have not seen a fully released game by 3D Realms since 2019. 3D Realms, quit jerking your fanbase around. Make a formal post. Explain what is happening with both Wrath and Graven. What are you going to do about the Founders Edition big box for Wrath? Are the remasters of Kingpin and Sin still being developed? My appreciation for this company has plummeted, y'all. I was singing their praises to all of my friends, but now I'm just telling them to stay away until some games actually release. Because with 3D Realms, their games will release when they're ready, and they are never ready. Hey there everyone, I just want to say thank you very much if you made it all the way to the end. I worked really hard on this video. I can't even describe how many hours I spent on it. It's the most work I've ever done on any of my videos. I just want to say thank you very much if you stuck around to the end. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment, like, subscribe. I also know that some info may not be 100% correct in this video, but I tried to be as accurate as I possibly could throughout. And because of that, if you know of any corrections that need to be made, share them in the comment. Who else watching is just as upset as I am about everything that's been going on? And if you like this music as much as I do, I have links to all of it in the description. Go ahead and check out those. Stay tuned and remember to subscribe. And like I said, please share this with your friends. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you all in the next one. Bye. I'm kind of stuck here.